informal, in part because Phil just told me a couple hours ago that I was going to talk about what it's like to be a candidate. So this does not count as official training. They're probably going to tell you everything different. But I want to tell you a little bit about, very briefly about my experience, and then actually take a few questions. Because I think probably, what, a third of you are already in elected office? That meant about right? How many of you are elected?
No.
Okay. So, and how many of you know you're running for office? And how many of you are thinking about it? Okay, that's actually really helpful. So I, among other things, I want to convince those of you who are thinking about it that you absolutely have to do that.
Yes.
No, that wasn't, sorry, Phil. What it's like to be a candidate, why you have to run for office. But I don't think you need to know much about the sort of current political environment. But the truth is, they have, since 2010, since Citizens United, a lot more money than us. Not just a little, but a lot. And that amount of money is going to continue to grow. And if we accept, and you guys got to learn how to fundraise, and I'll talk a little bit about my experience fundraising, that's absolutely essential. We do need to fundraise, but if we are going to take on this like really anti-democratic Republican move right now in our country that is threatening the spirit of democracy and threatening the core of democracy, we have to call on other sources of power. We have to call on hope and love and anger, and we have to call on people who are willing to step up and do the work. And it is incredibly, like, sometime in the next couple days, write down why you want to run, especially those of you, raise your hands again, who are thinking about it. Just why you want to run. Not a superficial reason that has anything to do with the numbers you need, not like why you can win, all those you'll deal with separately, but like the deep reason why, and I think what you'll find is the deep reason why is enough of a reason to take that risk and step out and do it. So the other reason you should run, which is related to what I want to tell you about my experience being a candidate, is it's one of the greatest privileges of my lifetime to be a candidate for office. You get to knock on any door, and the door opens, and you get the privilege of saying, what's going on? How is your year? How is your day? And what do you think we should do about it? And that's such an unusual sort of thing to be able to do with another person, is sort of look in their eyes and get to just sit and listen to the way they're experiencing the world, and sit and know that you, as a candidate, hopefully as an elected candidate, but even as a candidate who's not elected, can share those stories. I'll just give you one example that I think Elisa was there for, but we had an event in Pine Plains. You remember that, yes. But I actually would tell you that event echoed almost any time I got more than 10 women together over the age of 40. And what happened is just a bunch of women sat around and talked about what was going on in their lives. And what is going on in women's lives in this district and in this country is they are taking care of their parents. And it is, elder care is why women are not able to work full-time jobs. It is why they're limited in the jobs they are taking. It is on the top of their head about how they're going to schedule their whole day, week, year, life. And yet, elder care is not the major public debate that it should be. So as a candidate, one of the privileges that I had was being able to at least talk about it. At least say that we right now have a real crisis in elder care that is not just affecting older people, but is affecting all women of all different walks of life over 40. And just think of the power and joy that is. Sometimes I think of it a little bit like being a musician or a writer, where you get to travel all around into all different communities. One day you're driving around and you just see a farmer outside and stop and start talking. And another day you're going door to door, and another day you're in group meeting. But you have this incredible privilege to be able to really hear people and share their stories. So if you have any more doubts, it is running for office is one of the funniest things that can happen. You will have great stories as to why you should do it. But fundamentally, what I guess I'm trying to say is it's one of the most human things that you will ever do in your life. Because it is dealing, we're putting the numbers up there, but it's dealing with like the incredible complex humanity that we have. And so it's an incredible privilege, and I really, really, really hope you run. I'll say I got into it because somebody from the Working Families Party sent me a Teachout message saying, would you consider, who do you think should run against Andrew Cuomo for governor? And I said, I don't know the answer, but I like the question. And then we chatted for a little bit, and he said, what about you? And I said, no, of course not. And I said, of course not, because I needed tenure, which was true. But also because I thought, who would I be? Who am I? And I hope some of you have had that feeling. Like, I know people are asking you, but like, who am I? And I say this particularly to women, but to all of you, is that the question when you're asking whether or not to run, and I really believe this, and this is the ultimate decision I made, is not how do I compare against a dream I have of what a candidate could look like who has no flaws, right? But how do I compare it against the other person? Like, that's the only question. Would I do a better job than, in that case, Andrew Cuomo? And I'm serious that is your ethical question. I think a lot of women especially approach it as, oh my gosh, I've had 2 bankruptcies, or I'm only 23. I don't look like or seem like that person who I imagine running for this position. And that is not your job to figure that out. It is just, would I do a better job representing the people in whatever district or job that you're doing? And then a second thing I'd say about my sort of own decision-making process that's a little, softer, I guess. This isn't like strategy, it's just personal strategy. Is I made that first campaign, I made a list of all the nasty things that people could say about me, and I wrote them down because I found that, I was like, okay, so what happens if they call you this name or that name or that name? In this past campaign, it was, what happens if they, call you a communist? I didn't expect they'd hire a body double to do an ad, which is funny but not funny. We're saying false things about me. And what it actually did for me was help me say beforehand, well, I got my friends, and I know that I'm doing this for good reasons, and that's really all I need to know. So there's a weird way when you go into politics that you actually give up, you accept that your public persona is not your own, at the same time as you're trying to let people know about who you are. That's kind of weird. It's kind of a double. You guys with me?
Yeah.
But I think the giving up is actually really important, because if you are gonna get upset every time somebody calls you a name on Facebook, you're actually giving them a lot of power there. And so just walking through, okay, if they call me a name on Facebook, that's okay. I still have my friends. I still have my reasons for doing that. So that's something I would recommend on a personal level. Like anything really worthwhile and powerful, it's a lot of work. That doesn't mean you don't have time for dinner. You could get married during a campaign. I did, for those of you who don't know. But that it does take an incredible commitment, and that's really important that you take that commitment. And again, depending on the race you're running, that commitment is going to be divided up in different ways. But a few things are really, really important. One is that you spend a lot of time on the phone. And in some cases, that's going to be fundraising phone calls. In a lot of cases, that's going to be relationship phone calls. But those relationships are incredibly important. And it's something I actually wish I'd done more in my last campaign, is sort of finding little spots of time to spend more time on the phone to maintain the relationships that you have throughout, again, whatever district or area you're working on. Another thing that's incredibly important is to spend time scheduling. I know I'm going from the human to the banal, but that spending time scheduling a month in advance and taking a big chunk of time to schedule will save you weeks of time later.